I'd like to call the meeting of the Water, Waste and the Environment Committee to order on this February 2nd. 6 more weeks of winter, folks, according to Merv. My name is Councillor Ross Eady, and I'll be your chairperson. I'm the city councillor for the Minorski ward. And with me are my colleagues, Councillor Brian Mays from the St. Vital ward and Councillor Sherry Rowlands from the Fort Rouge East Fort Garry ward. And also with us today from the city's administration from Water and Waste, we have Mr. Tim Shanks, we have Miss Cynthia Weeb and Miss Becky Raditz to discuss the reports with us today.
Dobson has joined us as well. Councillor Dobson's here in person.
Oh, Councillor Dobson, easy good meeting. We have Councillor Dobson with us today as well from the St. James ward. You're such a quiet man. Versus the chairperson anyway. And also we have our senior clerk with us today. It's, I did it again. It's Carl Dalsky. Anyway, we are meeting here today on Treaty 1 territory. It is the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and it is also the homeland of the Red River Métis Nation. We receive our water from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. Councillor Dobson, would you move the minutes of January the 12th?
Yes, January 12th be taken as read and confirmed. Yes, I move it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody's opposed. That is carried. No other pre-motions. Any delegations?
No delegations, Mr. Chair.
No delegations. Okay, so we'll move into report number 1, Mr. Shanks.
Yes, this is a notice of extension request for the recycling options for community events. That was a request from a few meetings back that we put together a report on exploring the options for encouraging and enforcing recycling at all sorts of community events on city-owned land, community centers or other city facilities. So we're here today asking for another extension. First extension for 90 days. 60 days. I should read my report before I start talking about 60 days. So we're looking for another 2 months to come back and finish this report. It does involve a lot of coordination with other city departments, and we're behind where we thought we'd be. So we're hoping to have it ready in another 2 meeting cycles.
So 60 days, we're looking at April?
Yes.
Which is near the beginning of the season of outdoor events as we get into the spring and so on. So would one of my colleagues like to move that?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody's opposed. That is carried. Report number 2.
Yes, this is a verbal report on green technology involved with the Housing Accelerator Fund. There was a motion in December that we come back with some information to present to the committee about what kind of planned green technology or innovative practices we could be using under the HAF program. So today, Weed is here to provide that verbal report.
So the HAP funding pertains to our partially separated combined sewer areas. So these are areas that have some portion which is separated, but not the entire district. We often see this in areas where we've previously done some basement flood relief work, where we've done separation up to the point of meeting our level of service. So our combined sewer license still applies to these areas, and specifically our clause 8 deals with two components. The first is that new development doesn't increase the frequency or volume of combined sewers. And then it has a second part that speaks to the use of green technology and innovative practices in how we do our infrastructure upgrades. So we often find that clause 8 can be a limiting factor to densifying some of our areas, specifically in these partially separated neighborhoods, because as we densify and we increase the sewage component, there has to be a simultaneous offset in usually the land drainage component. So to create this offset, developers are often looking for catch basins that aren't disconnected, and then they disconnect them. So this is both time consuming and can be quite costly as well. So the purpose of the HAF program funding is to help promote opportunities for development by using this 2-point funding for the city to initiate some of these small scale separation. Essentially it's separating small pieces of land, parcels of land. So the focus here really is on the first part of clause 8, which is about not increasing the frequency volume of CSOs, less so about the second part. Essentially here, what we're doing is, like I said, it's separation work. So there really isn't an opportunity for green infrastructure with this particular funding. That said, as part of our overall CSO master plan, we have earmarked approximately 10% of the budget for various green initiatives, and we look at them for every district that we're studying. So there's lots, like in our Armstrong area, we're doing some separation, or we're doing some green infrastructure. We're in the process of planning some out for our Mission combined sewer. And as we bring different districts online, we'll incorporate technology on a district basis. So that's kind of, doesn't particularly pertain to the portion of the HAF funding, but we consider it on the global CSO side of things.
I have a question.
Councillor Mays, you're been asking questions about this now for several months, I think.
Well, yeah, it was a few months ago we asked for the report. Thank you for the report, though it doesn't actually address what I asked to address, which is we're putting millions of dollars to enable catch basin construction.
Mm-hmm.
Clause 8 expressly states the licensee shall use green technology and innovative practices in the design and operation of all new and upgraded storm and wastewater infrastructures. It's not may, not should, it's shall. So we're putting in these catch basins, we're spending millions of dollars on these catch basins, and we have to use green technology and innovative practices. So not asking about Armstrong, not asking about Mission District, just this little program with its catch basins. I mean, the license clause says we shall use technology and innovative practices. So let me ask again, what green technology and innovative practices are we using when we're spending millions on these catch basins?
So for this, we're not doing any green infrastructure. It's like a number of our separation contracts. We're looking at these as simple contracts. When we do like Rutland Trunk, there is no green technology with that particular contract. So we take a global approach to the green technology for our clause 8.
Yeah, like I guess to arguably, like the way the clause has been applied, or enforced by the regulator, and how we've tried to interpret it and apply it to the program. Like Christina said, it's a global approach. When all this is done and we're upgraded, we should be spending about 10% of that overall program budget should have gone into green infrastructure.
For the second time answering a question I didn't ask. I didn't ask about the 10% green infrastructure. You've been clear over the years, some districts are going to have nil, and then we're going to have to catch up somewhere else. Didn't ask about that. So with the wording, shall use green technology and innovative practices in the design and operation of all new and upgraded storm and wastewater infrastructure, your answer is no, we don't have to do that. It's a global approach. We just use it on some stuff. Like,
How does that not breach the license?
Well, the way the regulator has applied it, or I guess the intent of that clause. I mean, arguably, the innovation here in this is that the city is going out and proactively doing, you know, catch basin disconnection from the combined system to, you know, like that's something different. We haven't done that before. So that's what we're trying to do. I mean, granted, it's to help with the housing accelerator program. That's where the impetus for this is coming from. But yeah, the idea that like, I guess the answer would be that our understanding of the intent of the clause was not so much that every piece of pipe put in the ground has to have a green component. It was that we need to prioritize overall, you know, getting more green infrastructure in our system. And we have the opportunity here where we're designing and implementing and building new infrastructure that we want to bake in the green features where we can. So yeah, I guess the verbatim clause there, yes, we're not putting a green catch basin in or replacing a catch basin with some kind of green technology you could point to in this instance, no.
Okay, so we're not following. Okay, well, I intend to write to the regulator then saying, if you don't want to enforce, be public about it, but otherwise, it's like, it's an environmental regulation that uses terms like shall and all new and upgraded storm and wastewater infrastructure. And our interpretation is, well, they don't mean all. Okay, but I'll see what the regulator thinks about this. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so I respectfully disagree. I'll accept that, 10% given our total budget is actually punching above a $2 million price point here. And but what then I would expect you to answer that you've referred to in your brief is, we're doing some here, we're doing some here in your reference to Armstrong. I want you to detail for me, what is that sum and are we hitting the 10%? Because arguably that's more than, given the CSO budget, we're going above and beyond 2 mil. So yay, right? And so and to Councillor Mays' credit, he and I've gotten into this kind of disagreement before where I'm like, I think we're doing more on community kitchens, so don't put a $600,000 price point on it, because I think it would actually, you'll be more pleased in terms of food security outcomes. So would I be more pleased? Are we hitting 10% on the routine of that green tech? And then what does that look like? What is the specifics on the green tech?
I'm happy to speak to that right now if you'd like. So in Armstrong, we're currently doing some detailed design or some design work. And we're nearing the end of the detailed design. And we've done some early engagement collaboration with Public Works on Lila. So we've got some road drainage and green infrastructure components there. We're doing some soil storage silva cells. And that is basically what we did in John Hirsch. So it's kind of these milk carton crates that allow for water retention, and it slows the water from getting into the soil. But it also has a side benefit, is that it provides water for trees. So when we talk to our urban forestry colleagues about John Hirsch, they'll point out that the trees and the plantings that are there are much more I don't know, vibrant. The word that's coming to my mind is vibrant, but they're prospering better because they have this ready source of water for them. Thank you. Yes. So we've got that. We have some small rain gardens with native plantings that we're doing in collaboration with parks. Well, like I said, we'll be increasing the tree canopy. We're actually this time in this one, we're also putting in 2 monitoring pits, because right now what we find is it's hard to deter, like it's not very easy to determine or quantify the benefit. So now we'll be able to do some ongoing monitoring to try and exactly do that. What is the benefit of some of these green infrastructure technologies? We're also doing in Armstrong a bioretention facility off McGregor, which is a larger type of rain garden, an urban agriculture garden, and creating some opportunities for future community gardens in the area as well. For Coburn East, we're in preliminary design for that area, and we currently have 2 proposed green infrastructure solutions. Some bioswales and rain gardens with native plantings. We're also
bioswale.
yeah, we're also looking to do some complementary works around the naturalized Parker Pond that was previously constructed. And then in the Mission and Roland district, so we're I'm going from like where we're ready to construct to the design. We're gonna go back a step further. We're more in the conceptual design. We're investigating up to six different types of green infrastructure opportunities in that area. And through preliminary design, we'll see which ones appear to be most feasible, and then we'll take those ones forward. So each district gets looked at, from a very high level, look for opportunities, and then narrow it down to what's actually being constructed.
And that's just in the CSO file.
Correct.
And do you have a 10%? So do you have a measure or indicator that how we get to 10%? Like, is that, do you have a timeline? Do you have an indicator? Like what's the math?
It was meant to be approximately 10% of the overall budget.
Right.
So I don't know where we are at right now because we're just looking at doing some of these big constructions. A lot of them are also being done in conjunction with other projects. So it's not always easy to get, how much the exact cost of it.
Yeah.
Okay. But we'll be monitoring, the cost of these projects.
I'm going to suggest some of these are a really good road trip, and for our field studies, for our field studies trip, I'll just flag that if one wanted to get a bus together, this counselor would pay for it, and I don't know who on staff, but I am interested in shaping these a bit more. So I've taken some notes. And then I'm hoping we can, come back and look at the budgets because how interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Those are my
So,
questions.
Any questions, Councillor?
Briefly, just Ferry Road though, you're saying that's 0% though.
Sorry,
The Ferry Road one, which I think includes Rutland,
Yeah.
just
No, that one was largely, the design was already complete quite a while ago before green infrastructure. So that one's more pure separation.
just for clarity, these are 2 different things. The 2019 report from the city proposed 10%, didn't run it by council, it just was submitted to provincial government with 10% as a sort of industry norm or jurisdictional norm, I guess, and the province signed off on that. So that's in one category. Clause 8 is something totally different. It doesn't talk about green infrastructure, it doesn't talk about the 10%. So just so people are clear, Clause 8's a different thing. It's the thing that says there shouldn't be a net increase in the flow going. But that's I think those are my questions.
If I may, Councilor Mays, aren't they indeed saying though that, for sure they take the view that the licensee is doing 10% and that increase in flow could be site specific, as you point out, but they're taking a global view.
It's 2 different things. There's a 10%. And if we're at 0 in Ferry Road, obviously that'd be more than 10% somewhere else. That math isn't terribly hard. We'll have to bring this in at about $100 million of green infrastructure work by 2045, and that isn't fairly less inflation. This is something else. This is talking about. This is a different license. This is, well, it's a different provision at least.
It's not a different license. That's
Actually, I
their
think
point,
it
isn't
is.
it? They're taking their view as the licensee. There's only one licensee. That's us.
You can't say, I interpret shall use green technology in the design and operation of all new and upgraded storm and wastewater infrastructures and say that C clearly doesn't apply to all new and upgraded. It's just, we're just ignoring it, but I guess with the regulators ignoring it, I guess we'll find out. It's totally different than, and predates the 10%.
Does it predate? It doesn't predate it. Does it?
Yeah.
That's a question.
Our CSO license.
Through the chair.
It was all incorporated into our combined sewer master plan, and I can say we meet with the regulator quite regularly on this and our implementation and interpretation of it. Meet with them annually to discuss our progress on it. And we do look for opportunities where they exist, but I think the whole nature, like, there's nothing fancy about a catch basin, and there really isn't an opportunity for an innovative catch basin that I'm aware of.
I don't believe you're saying that. I'm joking, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Dobson, did you have a question? No? You shaking your head? Yes, no, yes.
He's
or-
paused thoughtfully. He's neither shaking his head nor indicating.
Yeah, I'm gonna pause on that. My thoughts are that we approve this.
Oh, that's a motion.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
It's verbal. Yep. If I may, so the terminology green technology refers to certain types of technology, like you said, the soaking up of water so that, trees, greening everything, that's a technology. So,
Yes.
when I look at our whole CSO program, though, I call that it's treating the water environment in the rivers in a green way, in that it's water. So like, so what's the difference from saying, well, this is a program that's greening or, environmentally friendly to the rivers versus green technology? Like land separation of land drainage from the combined sewers keeps raw sewage out of the rivers, right?
Yeah, I think they're looking for additional greening or natural solutions in order to accomplish the goal of basically retaining the water, slowing the water so that more sewage can get to the treatment. Yeah.
So, just sort of following through on that, you probably won't be able to answer this question, but the Housing Accelerator Fund is about building new multifamily. There's the missing middle thing. Well, it's still multifamily, but what I'm getting at here is green technology can be utilized in brand new buildings. And I'm kind of wondering how the city came to a decision that we would look at catch basins versus maybe providing 2.3 million to various projects to green their buildings.
The purpose of the HALF funding was not green technology, but was densification, affordable housing. So by removing this barrier to developers, having the cost and the time to find these offsets, it'll enable more housing units to come online in a more affordable manner for them. So the impetus wasn't green infrastructure at all.
I think too, just there's always, there's challenges with getting green technology or whether it's, I don't talk about gray water, but same kind of thing, like if the technology or the new piece of work is done on the private property side, we don't have existing mechanisms to kind of like maintain that going forward in the future. Whereas when it's on the system side, like when we ask developers to go and find one of these catch basins or go do something to the public system to open up that capacity, the public system maintains, it ends up in our control where we maintain it and can operate it. Definitely. So that's part of the logic is to, okay, where can we go on the city side and proactively find some of these opportunities where we can create some space in the public system.
Cool. Help me out here though, so private versus public side. The department in its recommendations when a developer moves ahead, the most densest part of our city now is in Councillor Rowland's ward. They've been asked to have land drainage storage tanks installed that release the water afterwards slowly. Is that not green technology that the city is insisting on?
No, that would be, we'd call it more gray infrastructure. So things that are made with like cement or steel, metals. Conventional, yeah. Green technology would refer to like these silver cells or a rain garden. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
I have one question. When it refers to green technology and innovative practice, there's different levels, is there not?
Yes.
So I'm assuming that you would pick the level that is the most beneficial for us and cost effective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a default. Yeah, it's a default. Yes.
Yeah, because we don't have an endless budget to do something like that. So we got to make something that's somewhat cost effective and uses as much green technology as possible.
And taking into account the environment we live in as well. So that's, our clays, the soil structure, the temperature extremes. So we have to look at everything to find the most affordable and cost-effective solution.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it for questions, I think. So, Councillor Dobson, you were saying you were going to move.
Yeah, I'd like to move it.
Report his information. Yep.
Yes.
All right. All those in favor?
Right.
Sounds like nobody's, is there anybody opposed?
No.
Then it passes with unanimous consent from the committee. Moving on to report number 3, which we're getting to the.
Just for clarity, I mean, I voted to receive it.
Information,
I certainly
yeah.
don't think this is what I requested.
You're not supporting it. Thanks for clarifying that, Councillor Meeks.
No problem.
Yep. Okay, report number 3, the climate action.
Resilience Committee. Yeah.
Climate Action Resilience Committee, that's it. I keep forgetting that word. Annual report for 2025.
Yes, the next 3 items on the agenda are related to the Climate Action and Resilience Committee work. The first item is the 2025 annual report. Raditz is here to give a overview and present and ask available for any questions.
Thank you. So this is the 2025 annual report for the Climate Action Resilience Committee Council. I believe you all have received a physical copy of this report. So a lot of great pictures in there. Quite happy with how that has turned out. So 2025 was the second full year that Climate Action Resilience Committee has been operating, and they built on the foundation that laid in 2024. And this annual report is centered around the purpose of the committee. So the first purpose is to advise Mayor and Council on climate change issues. Second is to engage the community to help shape implementation of the community energy investment roadmap and to update the Winnipeg Climate Action Plan and resilience strategy. Purpose 3 is to support the work of the community in advancing climate action and, of course, all other processes. So this report is really centered around those mandates. And 2025, CARC received direction from council, state policy committee, and some community committees. So they did provide feedback on the building emission reduction strategy. They are now receiving annual reports on that strategy. They are started work engaging in the adaptive reuse of heritage buildings that came from community. And I would put that in engaging community with on a climate action plan update. They've been meeting regularly with project staff and office of sustainability as that work is progressing. And they've been doing work to support the community in advancing climate action. So they've been participating in community events, connecting with other organizations with the city that work around climate action and developing those networks. And they've also put on a training event. They brought in ReClimate, specializing in climate change communication, invited in members from community to receive the education. And which is quite well received. And there's also been work on developing processes to support continuing to collaborate with the public service and to receive direction from council. So creating those frameworks and developing working groups, how to connect to the senior management to the climate steering committee, the public service, and working to support across departments in response to requests from public service and council.
Questions, yeah? Well, last year.
If I may, can you speak more about the interrelationship with this particular citizens committee and council and with administration? There, you know, generally speaking, we just the work of citizens committees are so important. They raise their hand, they apply to these structures that we have. The various citizens committees are structured in various different ways, up to various different committees of council or not at all. And sometimes councilors are on the board, sometimes they're not. And I'm wondering, what activities or general opportunities there have been to interact with council? Are they, is this particular configuration, satisfied with their collaboration? Would they like to see more? Do they have specific concerns or projects that they're working on with administration, for instance?
Okay.
And I'm welcome to sharing questions. There are a lot sometimes.
So maybe I'll start with the structure of how the work can happen. So the CARC can receive requests from council, SBC community committees.
Have they?
Yes, so they received request to review the building emission reduction strategy, which they did in 2025. There was also, which is ongoing into 2026, is working with planning, property and development on a report related to adaptive reuse of heritage buildings and how that's connected to climate change. So they can receive those requests for advice and input from that direction. And so that has been more active in 2025, which is fantastic. They could also receive basically requests for support from the public service. And the avenue for that is through the senior management team climate steering committee. So that's really the bridge from a public service to the climate action resilience committee. So that is like tied to the mandate, but like a lot of that work surrounding the climate action plan update project. So a lot of that, the meeting regularly, sharing of information, falls under that climate steering committee. They can also do work that the committee itself decides is important in response to what they're hearing. So in 2025, they completed the public survey on Winnipeggers' ideas of understanding and prioritization of climate action. So that was one of the reports that came to this committee in 2025. And they also completed the report with Prairie Climate Center around transparency and connection between activities and climate policy at the municipal level. So that really came from CARC looking at what was in the community energy investment roadmap, what they've been hearing from their networks and identifying that as a priority themselves. And then they can also respond to like community. So a lot of what they're doing is connecting with community through networks or through the other ad hoc committees council, like you say. And so like really making that connection, and then they can take that to go forward into what they want to put in their work plan. So that's 4 avenues to do the work. And then because those structures they've been really working on developing over the last 2 years, they're able to, no matter where that work comes from, pull in from those other areas to support steps, shaping the work, bringing it forward. So I know that in 2025, CARC had an event where they brought together other ad hoc committees and council to really take the time to identify shared interests and areas of work and learning. And I think it's really well acknowledged by the committees that there's a lot of shared priorities, and climate change really connects to the work that all of them are doing. And so that's really being infused into the work plan going forward, is like making sure those connections are used to strengthen the work, not just of CARC, but of those other committees. So, of course, like any enthusiastic group, there's so much that we want to do, the community wants to do. And really 2025, there's a lot of work that happened to set them up to do more in 2026. And a lot of that is that networking and connecting.
Okay, and then with respect to, are they getting, so some of what I saw, because as the Human Rights Committee Council, I saw sort of the survey that was sent out to all the citizen committees. And it implied that there was not a work plan that was fluid through the other committees. And so I'm wondering if they feel better about that now. I had provided our Human Rights Committee Council one and said, fundamentally, this is what we're putting forward. We were in a fairly big transition year last year, changing the structure of our budget to more meet the priorities and the work that the citizens want to do. And in part, I felt like they were asking questions of council that they need not ask. They had sort of the power. Has that been a learning opportunity for this citizen committee as well?
For sure. And I think that the work done in 2025 to make those connections and to share that information has been very helpful in thinking through how to form the work plan, but also that interest in continuing to work together with the other committees and identifying some things that could be worked on together, and that really would become like a more efficient way of solving it than the committees doing it separately. So even things like, what's the best way to bring on new members? What do they need to know? Yeah. So things like that, that groundwork to set up committee members well at the start, so you can move on to the climate action work starting more efficient.
And that brings another question. Do you have onboarding? Because we just finished the onboarding meeting. New members, existing members of the Human Rights Committee Council. Is that something that you do on the routine when you get new members?
No, that's what the coordinators do, and there've been some new members, one new member brought on, and so the coordinator has been doing that, but I do know that coordinators committees have been sharing information about what's your standard practice for that, and are there things that we could streamline?
Yeah.
So that work is ongoing.
Okay, because that's something we could share. Because there are some things, for instance, some people who come on have a framework that is sort of a board of directors framework, which is the incorrect framework when you're working within a citizen committee, in particular, those that are embedded or reporting to a standing policy committee, or in the case of HRCC, executive policy committee. So that is, you know, one of the framework you want to inform on about the opportunities, you know, the challenges sometimes. Thanks for that. It's food for thought, because that was a great gathering you did, the committee did last year. And this is a great annual report and budget. So moved if you want.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. You're on the committee, so you move.
Yeah, my thanks to
Same
Laura
things.
Brempel, who's been our coordinator about the existence of this committee. Put together this, well, took the lead on putting together the report and the later work plan. So I'll move item number 3, the 2025 annual.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody's opposed. That is carried. The budget for the committee, which is what, $47,000?
Yep.
You want to move that, or that was already
Yeah,
in?
I think we spent most of it last year with the Prairie.
The current center report, the research whole meetings and the reclaimant training.
Okay, so I'll move the 2026 operating budget, which is attached as appendix A to item.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody's opposed. That is carried. Report number 5, 2026's action plan.
Yeah, so this is largely as laid out by Ms. Rad. It's the plan for continuing some of the work that's already been going. I am looking forward to the heritage and adaptive reuse item. I think we could really do something like certainly some other cities that like Vancouver that have whole bylaws about disposal of construction materials, and we're well behind on that. So I think I can speak for the director of planning as well. She certainly is interested in this, so I think we can get something done there fairly quick. Well, we'll see how quickly, but get something meaningful done there. So I'll move the work plan as presented.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody is opposed. That is carried.
Mr. Chair, with respect to a future business item, this last conversation really did give rise to some of the green infrastructure that this committee that falls through like various committees, but not the CSO per se, but certainly with the Housing Accelerator Fund and the work of property development. And, you know, Hazel Boris's interest. I was, you know, there was a lot of conversation about the green infrastructure that has been produced in my ward and others, but for instance, the biofuels and more that Hazel was interested in, as we all are. But they don't necessarily fit into a particular agenda, so or a particular committee. And so, for instance, there's amazing work being done in the Housing Accelerator Fund with respect to Canada's first net zero multi-family medium. And so there ought to be a report at our committee, and given that this has jurisdiction of the environment, we would need some help in gathering up those practices that sort of are held in various pieces, but aren't brought together as one. So, for instance, the UWCRC's build across the street here is a Canada's first. And so, it's important to celebrate that. And so in future, I'll work with you to, see if we can't get a healthy briefing that would be maybe of interest to Kirk as well. And maybe that's the place for it too. Because I know it's been on my agenda to gather these pieces up since, since the beginning of term when Councillor Mays and I did a large gathering of climate interested folks in the ward to sort of launch the term.
So who's tracking that at the moment? Is that property and development that tracks that?
So that's my point. It's actually held,
What is it that is
the word that is
tracked or not?
right. The word that is the operative word. So for instance, you won't find it anywhere in the Housing Accelerator Fund. You'll find the approval of the building, and then following the approval, you'll find the celebration of the green infrastructure. So it isn't held on our agendas. It doesn't mean it's not happening though, and that's exactly my point. And so there's no one center because it exists through various committees, actions, but we don't then circle and show the totality of the file this term. And I'm quite proud of some of these things, whether the important thing for us is the level of transparency, and it does take some interdepartmental cooperation and really some time that no one necessarily has on their desk per se. We just, it's a variety of public servants that may or may not know a variety of political actions that may or may not have contend. So it's difficult to sort of lasso. It's a lassoing job, to use a very technical term.
What's I think about the future, I would be willing to second the motion through council so that through the
I'm not
examine organizational responsibility where that,
So I think that, something to work on. I'm flagging it now. I don't have a motion in mind, but I'll put a pin in it, and I just wanted to flag it at this meeting because this meeting was sort of the case in point of all that.
should be tracked. I'll also make a point. You make a great point. The Lord Selkirk Wesconon Community Committee approved no public funding going into it. It's a very large multifamily at over at the Northgate Mall, and they have gardens planned for certain levels of the roof and that sort of thing. That's green technology, right? So it's a way, but yeah, nobody's tracking that kind of thing, right? Anyway, I like the idea, Councillor Rowland. So I'm just not sure where I'd like it to come here because we are the Environment Committee, but yeah. Okay. All right. Do we have
Motion to adjourn.
There we go. Thank you, Councillor Dobson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody is opposed. That is carried. Great.